Anyone who knows me understands the importance I place on family and the importance I place on home. I was raised in Charleston, West Virginia, and I had a modest upbringing. My parents adopted my brother and me, and while we were a family unit, I never felt completely supported, loved, or connected to them. I always knew that I was adopted, and I never had any desire to meet my birth parents. But even as a young girl, I decided one day I was going to build my own family, and the bonds would be unbreakable. I wasn't sure how or with whom, but I knew, as sure as I was breathing, that it was going to happen. Let's face it, I didn't go to the best college, just like I wasn't from the best part of town. But I grew up around the upper class, and I knew how to get along. If I'm honest, I knew that I had two things going for me. One, I'm able to understand the ins and outs of any environment. I understand the implicit rules. I understand money, how you need to look, how you should run your home, who you need to know, and when to shut up. Two, I have the right look. I'm blonde, petite, athletic, but elegantly athletic. I had been a bit wild in college. A bit of a hoe, actually, but luckily this was before the internet, so there was no evidence of that. I dated everyone. The ballers, the fraternity brothers, even black guys. I'd bone them on the down low without anyone being the wiser. But I knew as soon as college was over, the serious business of finding a husband had to begin. I moved to Columbus, got a job in a bank as an analyst. I had some dates with few Midwestern boys, but they didn't have the Southern sensibility that was so important to me. The sensibility that I wanted to impart to my future children. I went back to Charleston for Thanksgiving, and I bumped into a girl I used to run around with in high school. She was dating Troy Hansen, and did I remember his brother Bob? Bob was working for the Chase Private Client Group in Columbus. He'd finished his MBA at Vanderbilt and was already a senior VP with the bank. I didn't really remember Bob or Troy, but I was intrigued. What I did remember was that he was definitely not handsome. There was something about his face. The features were too close together or too mashed up. His forehead was really small and his chin protruded. I mean, if you squinted, he wasn't too bad. But I agreed to go on a date with him. I still had my eyes on the prize. I wanted a family of my own. An established family who didn't have to worry about money or status. A family to protect me so that I'd never have to go without. I knew on our first date that this was the man I would marry. He didn't need to know about my past, so I didn't share that with him. And in my mind, the past was the past. I was done fooling around. I met him the Saturday night after Thanksgiving. I was invited over to the Hansen family home. The house itself was straight out of Southern living. It was a grand old mansion on a block of land with both a lake and a golf course. The kind of home that has a butler's pantry that held the finest Spo china I'd ever seen. Hallways hung with portraits featuring long-lost relatives. Elegant, traditional Queen Anne antique furniture at every turn. This was the life I wanted, and this was the man who could give it to me. We barely talked that night, but I could tell that he wanted the same things. Could I have waited for someone who was better looking, more interesting to marry? Maybe, but one thing I knew for sure, Bob would never leave me. I'd never have to worry about Bob running around on me. Bob hadn't really dated much through college or in grad school, but like me, he was ready to settle down and to start a family. He was definitely proud of having me on his arm. There was a trade-off that we made, which we never actually discussed. I am white trash, but I know how to survive within the confines of the well-heeled and genteel, and I have the look that men covet. Bob is from the old money set in Charleston. He has access to the right families, the right clubs, everything right, but he's pretty unfortunate looking. His body is fine, certainly something I can work with, and I know that I sound callous saying this, but it's true. We both had something the other wanted, needed, and that has been what's held us together through all of these years.